Okay, we're going to try something different. I've been working on this. This isn't part of the Constitution series, but the Nuremberg Code is coming up in the news an awful lot, so I'll just use some random footage. What is that? Thank you, Treble. Not my favorite tunnel, but it is my favorite bridge. So, get started. Hi guys, I'm still working on my studio and have you some Constitution videos out next week. But the Nuremberg Code is all over the news right now, so I thought you would like to know what it says. This is taken directly from the National Institutes of Health website. It is not considered actual law as it does not originate from the people. The USA does not recognize international law unless we have a treaty. We do, however, adhere to these rulings as they follow our general moral code. USA is also the only country in the world that will enter another country or even go to war to retrieve just one citizen. Keep that in mind when you hear an American say he or she is a citizen of the world. You might just let the world come rescue you. The Nuremberg Code, however, is considered a guideline by 173 countries out of 195 on the earth, including ours. Be advised that these codes were used by the military tribunals in 1945 to 1947 to convict some of the Nazi hierarchy of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Also be aware that the 22 countries that do not recognize this code will come up again in our Constitution series. So without further comment, the Nuremberg Code. Number 1. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention or any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision by the experimental subject should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health or person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. The duty and responsibility for ascertaining the quality of the consent rests upon each individual who initiates, directs, or engages in the experiment. It is a personal duty and responsibility which may not be delegated to another with impunity. Number 2, the experiment should be such as to yield fruitful results for the good of society, unprocurable by other methods or means of study, not random and unnecessary in nature. Number 3, the experiment should be so designed and based on the results of animal experimentation first, and a knowledge of the natural history of the disease or other problem under study, that the anticipated results will justify the performance of the experiment. Number 4, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. Number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is an a priori reason to believe that death or disabling injury will occur, except perhaps in those experiments where the experimental physicians also serve as subjects. A priori means prominent, or they actually expect it could happen, not accidentally, but as a result of the experiment. This is likely the section they are pointing at today. Number 6, the degree of risk to be taken should never exceed that determined by the humanitarian importance of the problem to be solved by the experiment. Number 7, proper preparations should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subject against even remote possibilities of injury, disability, or death. Number 8. The experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. The highest degree of skill and care should be required through all stages of the experiment of those who conduct or engage in the experiment. Number 9. During the course of the experiment, the human subject should be at liberty to bring the experiment to an end. If he has reached the physical or mental state or continuation of the experiment seemed to him to be impossible, in other words, he should be able to bail. Number 10. During the course of the experiment, the scientists in charge must be prepared to terminate the experiment at any stage if he has probable cause to believe in the exercise of the good faith, superior skills, and careful judgment required of him that a continuation of the experiment is likely to result in injury, disability, or death to the experimental subject. In other words, the doctor has the expectation to do no intentional harm. That's the code. Where does this come from? Trials of war criminals before the Nuremberg military tribunals under Control Council Law Number 10, Volume 2, pages 181 and 182. The Washington, D.C. U.S. Government Printing Office, printed in 1949. It's that old. Now, if you're wondering why Nuremberg Code is being brought up, it's likely that some people might think some other people might have some splaining to do. I agree. I will leave it at that, though, other than to say that this is what spurred me to start this channel in the first place. The Nuremberg Code was adopted in 1976 by the United Nations to be the bare minimum of care by doctors and scientists. It is kind of like a law, but not enforceable. No law from outside the United States is enforceable within the United States. We do have American laws that closely follow this code, though. And crimes against humanity are taken very seriously in the United States. For the most part, it was the United States and Britain, after we kicked them out, of course, who started not just our own countries, plural, both those, but the entire world down the path towards universal freedom and bodily autonomy. Feel free to rewatch this if you want to take a closer look at some of these rules. They are printed on here exactly, and they are relevant to recent events. So long for now. I'll get you some more videos out real quick. And please, keep the dirty side down, and thank you for watching.